Good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Koch Korner. This is an interview series, part of the Farmers Alley at-home series, where I interview artists and theater makers and community leaders from across the country, mostly here in Kalamazoo, but all across the country, who are dedicated to enriching the arts, while at the same time creating opportunity and equity and access to all who love this art form. We hope to inspire and entertain and educate you. Tonight, I've got a couple guests who should have no problem doing just that. I'm proud to interview J. Scott Lapp, Chelsea Nicole Lapp, and Troy Hussmann, three of the wonderful artists who were part of the curious incident of the dog in the nighttime, which Farmers Alley Theater produced in March of 2019. Before I bring them out, I would like to say thanks for watching, and I would like to say that we would like to hear from you. We want to hear your thoughts and questions. Please put them in the comment section below here on Facebook or YouTube, and we will see them, and we may even display them as we go along. Now, please be aware that you might have to go to streamyard.com/Facebook in order to be able to put your comments in the comment section. And there's some information there below my face telling you how to do that. All right, well, let's get to it. I would like to bring out my guests. First up, ladies first, Chelsea Nicole Lapp is an award-winning choreographer and performer from Southern California. Her work has been seen all over the United States as well as Uganda. That's quite a span there, Chelsea. She is a recipient of the Portland Area Musical Theater Award, Inland Theater League, National Youth Arts and Director's Choice Award. Please welcome Chelsea Nicole Lapp.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, great. Thanks for being here.
Of course.
You're coming to us from California, right?
From Southern California, yep.
All right, and far enough away from those awful wildfires, I hope?
Yeah, we've been lucky. They've been a lot further north than we are, but yeah, they've been crazy.
Horrible, right?
Yeah.
We got to do something about this climate change.
Yeah.
The earth is literally on fire.
Right. Yeah.
But that's for another topic. Tonight we're going to talk about theater and arts, and I'm really glad you're here. It was great working with you, and I look forward to doing it again.
Yes, me too.
Let's bring out another talented artist who happens to be your brother. J. Scott Lapp joins us also from California, where he's currently working as the artistic director of the California Center for the Arts Escondido. He has worked here in Kalamazoo with Farmers Alley on two different occasions, once as director of Murder for Two in April of 2016 as part of the Gilmore Keyboard Festival, and most recently as the director of The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. He is currently represented on the West End with DreamWorks' The Prince of Egypt, for which he serves as the associate director. Please join me in welcoming director J. Scott Lapp.
Hey,
Hi,
what's
sir.
up, Koch?
How
are you, man?
Yeah,
so good to see you.
We should tell everyone what your J stands for, right?
J stands for Jeremy.
And so
we're both Jeremys, so
we just call each other by our last names, you know.
That's right.
Lapp and Koch.
As football guys. Lapp, Koch.
Actually, it should be Koch and Lapp alphabetically.
Oh, sure, I'll take that.
And age before beauty. So thanks for being here. Like I was saying to Chelsea,
pleasure,
it was such an amazing experience. As a producer, as the artistic director, and as an actor working with both of you, just a phenomenal experience, and one that I hope we can recreate somehow, whether with a different script or maybe like a reunion cast of this someday, because it's just so fulfilling, on so many levels.
It's such a special story, from the ground up, everybody involved. It was a special experience for sure.
Yeah. Well, we're going to give our viewers a little taste of that in case they didn't get to see the show live, which of course is the best way to experience theater. But the next best thing is a little bit of archival footage. So stay tuned, everybody, because we have a few video clips and some pictures of the show. So I hope you'll stay tuned to watch those. My third guest joins us from New York City. And he was the star of this production of Curious Incident. He has been performing professionally since the age of 12. Troy Hussmann has toured all over the country with the Radio City's Christmas Spectacular and has been seen in regional theaters from the Old Globe, North Carolina Theater, and Syracuse Stage. He received his BFA from Syracuse University and is now a proud member of Actors Equity Association. His last and most important role to date was right here at Farmers Alley playing Christopher in Curious Incident. Please welcome Troy Hussmann. Hi, Troy.
Hello, everybody.
Tell our viewers that I did not write that last sentence. You wrote that.
No, I totally wrote it.
I've been known to do that, but this was Troy. So you really feel that way? You think that that was your most important, most fulfilling role to date?
No, I totally do. I grew up doing theater because it was fun and I liked doing it. And I did Curious Incident, and it totally changed like a whole outlook that I had on life in general. So I definitely felt like I walked away being a better human as well as being a better artist.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What is it about the story? I mean, I want to get to a little bit of the three of you and your backgrounds, but obviously, this show kind of brought us all together. What do you think it is about that show that touched you so much, Troy? And what do you think it is that made the audience so moved?
I mean, I think, at least for myself, what I can say is that, I've known people who have been on the autism spectrum, but it's hard to understand. And there's so many people that are now affected with it. And, I think it's hard to put yourself in that person's shoes and to generally feel how they feel, and then to feel how the people around them feel and what they deal with on a daily basis. And I think that's what this show does so beautifully, is that it shows you the inside world of Christopher and shows the people who are affected directly by his life.
Yep, that's a really good point. And I think it's so interesting that it makes that direct correlation to connecting with others, right? That Christopher struggles with that, but ultimately needs that in some way, maybe in a different way than most people. But that's what I think theater does so well, is it brings people together, and it reminds us of what it's like to be alive in today's day and age and sit next to other humans and, listen to a story. Would you agree with that, Jeremy, Chelsea?
Totally. I mean, the book, is not about autism. It's about people with differences, and the show investigates love and the choices that we make and how those choices affect others, including Christopher's family. So much about Curious Incident, follows Christopher as the protagonist, but his family and everyone involved around his circle is directly influenced by, how he goes through life. So it's a fabulous book. The show is so great.
I agree. I loved it. It definitely taught me a lot, and I learned a lot. Chelsea, how does the movement aspect, move an audience even further?
Oh my gosh, I think it completely, especially the way that we did it with how intimate your space is, it just brought people into that world, and we tried to, I tried to put them as close as I can into Christopher's world, and the loud music and the lights, and just being overwhelmed, and just let them into Christopher's imagination too, because I think his mind is so interesting and awesome to try to dive into. It's
pretty fascinating, right? I mean, you get sort of the puzzle aspect, right? I mean, all of us loves to sort of solve a puzzle or watch a TV show, and try to figure out who done it. And that's actually literally what happens here. But it's also fascinating to sort of put together, Christopher's brain, try to figure out what he's thinking and what he's feeling and how he processes things so differently from us, right? It's sort of fascinating to watch. Kathleen, thanks for watching. She loved it. Choreography was brilliant. Story touched her heart. And she works with kids on the spectrum. Troy, you were spot on, my friend.
That's awesome.
Troy, nice. I remember something because I want to get to a little bit of the three of you and sort of your histories. But Troy, I remember something you told me when we first started rehearsing. And I love playing your stage dad, by the way. But you mentioned that this was either one of or maybe your first non-musical performance, your first.
Yeah, it was the first play I've ever done in my entire life. I did little plays in college, little scripts that friends wrote, and we did them in a tiny little black box. But this is the first play that I had ever done a full scale play before.
Well, I was shocked because I thought you were so good. I thought you were brilliant, just so honest and so natural. And it's tough, it's really tough to play someone with that sort of, affliction or just a difference in the way that their brain processes things and without making it seem kind of phony. And I thought you really did a wonderful job of keeping it real.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And I think too, let me jump in and just say that your portrayal as the father as well was so important. And because that relationship between the two of them has to be so real, and we have to see, the way that Troy reacts, the way that Christopher reacts has to break his dad's heart. and watching you go through that journey each night was incredible to watch. Just how honest and special that the two of your relationship was on stage was also a highlight of that show.
Awesome. Well, your direction, Chelsea and Jeremy, you guys helped guide us to those performances, and I'm honored to have been a part of it. And I pulled from my own life, and I have my son who's actually co-producing this event tonight. Reminds me of you, Troy. And when I looked at you, I kind of saw him, and it helped me bring out a more real response in myself. So it was pretty special. Let's go back a little bit. Jeremy, tell me a little bit about how you first became involved in the arts. Let's just get a little history on you.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I basically was born into the arts. My grandparents used to go see theater all the time and would, invite my parents to come. And one time when I was like a year and a half, they invited them and my parents couldn't find a babysitter. So they hesitantly invited me to come with them. And I sat there throughout the entire show, a live musical for like 2 hours without crying. And then at the end of the show, they carried me up the steps. And as they carried me away, I turned back to the stage and started crying. And I think from that point on, everyone knew I was going to be involved in theater somehow. So from there, I got involved in youth theater and grew up in that and did, over 100 productions between the time I was 8 and 18, and then kind of fell more into the directing role and did a bunch of, internships and things at La Jolla Playhouse, and eventually found that track and really loved that side of the theater. So that's where I ended up kind of moving my way into the directing route versus performing.
I love it. And we have sort of a mutual connection because I first contacted you to direct Murder for Two after having talked to my sort of friend, our mutual friend, Scott Schwartz, Stephen Schwartz's son, right? And we were in Boston at the same time when I was going to school at conservatory and he was at Harvard. And so we had that connection, and he directed Murder for Two, right? And you were the associate director?
He sure did.
Awesome.
Yeah, I've worked with Scott for like 9 years now as his associate director on different projects. And Murder for Two was one of those ones where he wanted to do your production, but couldn't, for one reason or another. So he's like, I'm going to send you out to do the show. And, that formed our relationship, and it's been a wonderful collaboration.
Thrilled that it happened. Love Scott, but really thrilled that we are connected, and you did a fantastic job on both productions. Chelsea, tell me, is your story pretty similar?
It's pretty similar. Basically, I mean, Jeremy's 7 years older than I am, so he was involved in theater. I really was born into theater. So I started off performing, was in shows starting at the age of 4, and kept performing all the way with a youth theater company till I was 18. And even then, so after with some community theaters. And I started teaching for the youth company that I grew up in, and started choreographing shows for them, and just kind of found out that I really loved it and I loved teaching. And so jumped full force into choreography and kind of never looked back. I performed a couple times here and there still, but really choreography is where it's at now.
I love it. And it's very, it's obviously really crucial to many musicals, but, with what we call a straight play, like a non-musical, often it's not something that's required. But in this case, it definitely was. And I'm so glad you were, we're going to see some evidence of your wonderful work real soon with some of our video clips. Troy, tell me a little bit about your foray into this art world.
My story is very similar to Jeremy's, actually. My grandma took me to go see a play when I was like 4, and halfway through the show, or maybe afterwards, I leaned over to her and I said, "That's what I want to do." And ever since then, that's exactly what I've been doing and what I've been pursuing. I went to school for it, and now I'm in New York City, and though it's a little bit different right now, I'm still kind of working on some stuff, and that's definitely what I want to do. So it's definitely where I got bit, though, was when I was 4 years old, and I just always did it.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yep. I think we all have similar stories. So let's flash forward to the present day, or actually a year and a half ago. I think that, there's some really cool things. Curious Incident was a success for Farmers Alley on many levels. Artistically, we felt, really proud of the work that the 4 of us did, and all the designers too. And I want to talk about them. But then it was a commercial success too. I think that, word traveled that People were really loving what they were seeing, from the story to the design to the performances, etc. And they were feeling really touched and moved by it. And it wound up being a really good, a big hit for us, a sellout. But let's talk about how we got it to that point. Jeremy, and Chelsea, tell us about the pre-production planning, and how crucial not only Chelsea's choreography and Jeremy, your direction overall, but incorporating light and sound and projections too.
Yeah, I mean, I think, when you reached out to me about directing the show, we started talking about it immediately and going, how will we do this? And I got that original novel by Mark Haddon and the stage adaptation by Simon Stevens, and just started going, okay, let's unravel what this is. This is basically a show seen through Christopher's lens, right? So what can we do in a space like you have at Farmer's Alley, where we can basically, have everybody breathe the same air as Christopher? So how can we encapsulate them inside his brain was kind of our goal. And, the book moves so quickly and the stage production moves so quickly that you kind of have to follow Chris at the same speed that his brain works. And his brain works at 100 miles per hour. So the show also has to kind of move at that same speed. And in the stage production, there's a big lack of stage directions and kind of any mention of physical scenery, which is thrilling and also terrifying at the exact same time. Because it goes, this is a blank canvas and you're going to tell the story how you want to tell it. And so, knowing that music played a big element in the show, in choreography, I brought on Chelsea, and then Alex Tobin, who did our sound and kind of created the auditory world for Christopher, did an amazing piece of work in a very short amount of time and created these soundscapes, not only hundreds of sound effects, but these sections of music that would take us through a train station or through, all these different difficult sections of the show that you have to figure out how to do. And so with Chelsea and I, we started talking about and dreaming up how we wanted to tell that story and in what way could we physicalize that world, and came up with something that I think kind of worked pretty well. Chelsea, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it was a really it was a fun process. Like Jeremy and I have a language, kind of, being siblings and working together so often, we've created a language. So it's fun for us to sit down and figure these things out together. And I know, like, choreography wise, we brought in, we got a group of some of our close creative friends out here in California beforehand and just got them into a room, and we messed around with all these things with the train station, with space stuff, how to make Christopher look like he was flying through space, and the coming home part that we'll see in videos on a little bit. But we got those people together and kind of picked their brains and talked through them and figured out ways to make that happen. And the train part was probably the hardest thing, I think, because music wise, we didn't exactly know what it was going to sound like. So Alex sent me things that was it's kind of like this, so choreograph it to this, and we're still working on it. So it was a challenge, but it turned out so great.
Yes, kudos to Alex and Tony Mitchell, who wrote the music as well.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then we had Jason Frink on the lights and Justin Thomas on scenic design and projections. So the four of them are well represented here. So since you mentioned Chelsea, wonderful segue. Let's take a look at that train station sequence. Jason, please roll video 1.
Until you come back to a road you've already walked on. Then taking the next left. Then taking the next right. And so on. And that is how I found the station!
Automatic 5, 6, 2,
Love it. Man,
Yeah.
that brings up memories.
Man, it sure does. I mean, I remember that
Right?
tech process and just sitting there and working through every single cue with Jason and Justin and, you know, Alex and Roger, of course. Roger
course.
called
Can't
so
forget
many cues throughout that show that it was wild, you know, because everything that Christopher deals with in that, he has this sensitivity to like stimulus. So we wanted to make it feel like the sound, every single conversation is amplified 20%, and we wanted to make the audience feel that too. So that's what we tried to do in that whole sequence.
I think they did. I want to thank some of the viewers right now because we're getting some great comments, you know, not only from Farmers Alley supporters like Kathleen and Sue, but Jeremy, you have a follower here named Jacob. And Jacob's been follows you on social, and he really connects with this piece. So Jacob, thanks for watching. And Whitney is watching as well, and commenting. So thanks everybody for watching. Please keep the comments coming. We love that.
Yeah.
And as much as we can, we'll try to post them and talk about them. So Troy, how did all the design elements bring out a more realistic performance from you? Did it?
I mean, I think it did. You know, you're going from a tiny like room with no sound, no lights, no set, you know, and you're doing everything and you're thinking that it's going to be one thing, and then you get in the space, and like by that point you have, you know, all the lines down and you know exactly where you need to stand and everything. But it's those extra elements that just totally kick you into finding every part of your character that just amplifies it even more and does make it real. You know.
Awesome. Let's dig a little deeper. How did you prepare? How did you tackle this role that is, requires such a roller coaster of emotion and physicality? I seem to remember lifting you up in the air quite a bit.
All the time, flips and everything. You know, it was a lot. I was so excited once I got cast and I read the book, and I'd seen the show on Broadway, you know, when it was there, and I remember watching it being like, this role is amazing, and I never thought that I would play it because I've just only done musicals, and I don't know why I thought that I just would never get to do that. But once I got cast, I kind of thought about, you know, everything that the book said, which was that Christopher isn't ever labeled as autistic, you know, but he does have a lot of characteristics of someone that is on the spectrum somewhere. You know, and it is such a wide spectrum in general. And so I did read a book. I found this book by this kid, Naoki Higashida. It's this kid who's from Japan, and he wrote this book, and it's called The Inner Voice. It's called The Reason I Jump, which is the inner voice of a 13-year-old boy with autism. And the book is designed just as like a question and answer. And he is pretty much nonverbal, so he types like everything out. And from that, I kind of got into like a world of, you know, understanding things a little bit more, or at least how his world was. And once we got into the room with in rehearsals, we did have somebody from the Great Lakes Center for Autism Treatment and Research come and kind of describe what she sees on a daily basis. And from all of those things, I just kind of created what I thought would be the most honest portrayal of Christopher. Yeah.
Excellent.
But
Excellent. You did such a good job. You know, what's interesting is that Brian's watching.
Brian,
Fellow
Brian.
cast member Brian Ponzi brings him back.
Yes.
Honored to share the stage. Thanks, Brian. Miss and love you too.
Yes.
Yeah, and thanks to Great Lakes Autism Center, all of our great sponsors throughout the years. It's so important to tell these stories, right? I mean, this is a little more nationally internationally known story, but it's so important to tell these stories, you know, people that are a little bit different, and shine a spotlight on that, and bring some awareness to, you know, what a lot of people are going through that others may not know about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jeremy, go ahead.
I think that's what theater does so well, and that's the type of theater we all love so much. And what we loved about doing this piece was that it did shine a light on, you know, something that maybe isn't spoken about as much. And so being able to tackle, you know, this story from Christopher's point of view with this group of people, it was a special experience, you know. And it's based in physical theater, and so the collaboration that it took in the room with, you know, how many actors do we have? 9, 10 actors in the show? I think it was 10.
11.
But,
yeah.
you know, there's no set pieces. There's maybe, you know, 4 or 5. There's a desk and a chair and a couple different things. There's our wonderful cast.
There's the whole team.
But like, you know, there's no set pieces. So you really use all of these actors to become different elements of the show that help push the story forward. And creating that and figuring out what that looked like with them was an absolute joy from the first day of rehearsal.
I agree. And I love that feeling of, you know, I wasn't just Ed. You know, there were times where I was in the train station or I was, you know, lifting Christopher up. And I just love the feeling of that, almost like that Greek ensemble, you know, where we're all there and we're all telling the story and we're all part of each scene. It feels more like a family. It feels more collaborative. It feels more,
100%.
you know,
Yeah.
Julie, thank you. Pleasure to work with all of you. Love this show. Julie, thanks for watching,
Julie.
Commenting. We miss you too and love you. Troy, you seem like such a warm, friendly guy. Maybe it's all an act, but is there a part of you that likes to sort of be alone? Are there times where you're like, I just want everyone to leave me alone, lock myself in my room? Are there parts of you that you really could connect to Christopher and say, I get this, like where I'm just like, I don't want anyone talking to me or touching me?
Yeah, I mean, in general, you know, when we were being able to live our lives very freely, you know, I did value my time that I just got to be in my apartment by myself or sing out loud, you know, and like I have roommates, you know, or, you know, I'm like, I don't want to sing out loud right now. Like they're sitting right there, you know? So there are parts where I definitely could, you know, connect to that, you know, you do just want to be by yourself and you want to spend time with yourself and your own thoughts.
Yes.
So I definitely feel that.
Let's take a look a little bit and about how Christopher might, you know, spend his time, entertain himself, because he didn't maybe necessarily want to be around other people. One of the sections that I love the way you directed, Jeremy, and Chelsea with the choreography, and Troy, the way you played with the scene, is when we get to see Christopher come home from school. So let's show our viewers. Jason, roll video 2. Oh, sorry, I'm in the wrong place. Oh my gosh. All right.
This is space, right?
This is space. Let's rewind. Everyone pause and rewind. This still applies. Jeremy, your direction, and Chelsea, your choreography. But this is more about what Christopher longs to do. He feels like he, you know, because he's so great with numbers and math, that he might like to be an astronaut because he gets to be alone in space and kind of look out and see the world, and it's sort of a dream of his. And the way that we tried to recreate that, like you said, with no set pieces and just we few actors. Let's take a look at that video clip. Jason, number 2, space.
When I put my hands on the sides of my face so that I can't see the fence and the chimney and the clothesline, and I pretend I'm in space, and all I can see would be stars. Stars are the places where the molecules that life is made of were constructed billions of years ago. For example, all the iron in your blood, which stops you being anemic, was made in a star. And I would like it if they would let me take Toby with me into space. That might be loud, because they do sometimes take animals into space for experiments. So, if I could think of an experiment you could do with a rat that didn't hurt the rat, I'd make them let me take Toby. But even if they didn't, I'd still go, because it would be a dream come true.
Father said.
Oh, that poor book. That poor book.
I want it everywhere.
And that was Tori Matzos, right? And she was absolutely brilliant in this production.
Oh my gosh.
So good.
Unbelievable.
So good. So that gives us a little glimpse into, you know, the world of Christopher and, you know, the creative and collaborative way that we had to tell the story. You know, how do you send a character into space if you're not doing a movie? And it felt really cool to be part of that. Chelsea, how much work did you do on coming up with, you know, different ways that we could, you know, lift him or send him shooting into space?
Yeah, that was one of the things that we worked on in California with that group of actors that we got together. So that one was we didn't like set that one specifically because I wanted, you know, not knowing who was in our cast yet and how physical they could be. We just kind of came up with certain things and how to make someone look like they were floating. And I know, like working with Troy before, it was really fun to push him physically a little bit to do some things that he maybe hasn't done before. And so that was a blast getting together with him and figuring out his portion of that, as well as with everybody else, how we could lift him and make him fly.
It was so cool. I wish I could have been out in the audience, but alas, I was lifting your hip, my friend. I was under your hip bone at that point, I think.
I think too, a show like this and sequences like that don't happen, without immense collaboration. And I just want to say it again, between Justin and Jason and Alex, we started working on that show, I don't know, it must have been like about a year out, and just started dreaming about what these different moments could look like and how they can support the story that we wanted to tell. And so I just want to say again, like, those guys are fantastic, and it really showed in the overall final product of what we came up with.
Really grateful to each of them. I mean, obviously everyone that worked on the show, but in particular, the four of you really working extra hard and staying late and making sure these things happen. And the whole projection element isn't something that we really, did to this magnitude. Right. And I really think that helped create that world. Of Christopher's brain, right? Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, seeing, the smiley face that he would draw, and the different things that we'd see kind of in his imagination, what it looks like, you get to see that on the screen behind you. And so having that part of the show was a real cool effect that we added. Yeah.
I always remember when you were, Troy, stacking those boxes and kind of making that escalator when I was trying to find you at the station, and just seeing that behind you, and then seeing like you pretending to, yeah. Did you get to look, Troy? Did you get to feel that? No,
not at all. I never knew anything that was going on. There was like Tetris going on at one point, and people were like, "Tetris is so cool." I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." No,
so funny. Yes, and kudos. I mean, we mentioned Roger, but of course, Roger Burley, stage manager, just being the glue and holding it all together, and calling all those cues at the right time, and we had to add an extra projection worker because Roger only has two hands. But I saw a comment earlier from I think from Whitney, feeling like the sound really felt like she was in there, and Rob Weiner's commenting. So thanks again, everyone, for commenting. I just was thinking, just thinking about space and like how Christopher longs to sort of be by himself, right? I find it, I don't know, interesting or ironic that Christopher and his fear of an avoidance of social interaction cause him to choose to be isolated, and those that love him have to find creative ways to connect with him. However, Christopher's need to find out who killed Wellington, and of course Wellington's the dog that he cared so much about, in case you don't know, dear viewer, to find out who killed Wellington led to a subsequent overcoming of that fear and drove him out into the world where he had to interact with others. And the irony is how that all of that directly correlates to today's pandemic. And most of us miss our social interactions, but we're forced to be isolated, and therefore we are compelled to find other ways of connecting. It's so, my mind is blown. I gotta go. Good night, everybody.
I think something we learned too during the process, a common trait of autism includes, the difficulty in recognizing social cues. Right. And so something for Christopher, he reads body language and he reads facial expressions. And what does that look like now for someone who, has a mask on all the time?
Oh, yeah.
For a child with autism, it's got to be twice as hard now to recognize those social cues.
Yes. Yeah. Troy, what do you think?
It's just wild, like I even find myself, like, because I've spent so much time alone or with my fiance or with, like we had one other roommate that, lived with us during the pandemic, and it was just seeing other people. Once the web kind of spread out a little bit, I would be with people for 30 minutes and be like, I don't know how to communicate with you. Like, I'm not used to it, and that was something that I found so interesting in this whole thing, is that just socializing is challenging now.
Right. And with this whole, virtual schooling, I mean, my kids are dealing with that right now, and, they're doing school all virtually. And so there's that feeling of isolation to a certain extent, right? You're just sort of, you got to stick to your home. And of course you can see other people, but it also reminds me of this other interesting contrast that I've mentioned before, which is the fact that, theater, I feel, is such a great way to turn your technology off, right? You know, you go to the theater, you turn your phones off, or if you don't, Patty LuPone will yell at you, right? Right? So it's like, put it down, turn all your stuff off, your technology off, and let's remember what it's like to just be a regular human, and let's hear a story the way we've been telling stories for hundreds and thousands of years, right? But now we can't really do that, and it's so interesting that the way that we're staying creative and the way that we're connecting with others right now is through technology, and it's crazy, right?
Well, we're bombarded by information, you know. That's what our culture lives on, is like signs and flashing signs and sounds, and to put that all away and just sit in a dark room with, you know, 100 other strangers for an hour. I miss it so much, you know. Not being able to work in the theater right now is so difficult because I long for that communal aspect of theater, and that's what we don't get right now. You know, whether it's sitting on a Zoom call and watching a show online, you know, or doing a drive-in concert where people sit in their cars but honk at the end of numbers. It's just different, you know. And as artists, that's what we long for. Is we long for that communal aspect, and that's what I think we're most missing right now.
Agreed. Agreed. Well, I teased this before, so I might as well try to redeem myself. Let us now take a look at, I just found this section really cool. Chelsea, the way that you choreographed this. And I want to show the viewers a little bit of what it was like to be Christopher coming home from school and sort of entertaining himself and taking care of himself alone. So now, Jason, let's look at video 3 after school.
I came home from school one day and no one answered the door. So I went and found the secret key that we keep under a flower pot outside the kitchen window. I let myself into the house and wiped my feet on the mat. I put the key in the bowl on the table. I took my coat off and hung it by the side of the fridge so we were ready for school the next day. And gave 3 pellets of rat food to Toby, who's my pet rat. I made myself a raspberry milkshake and heated it up in the microwave. Then I went up to my bedroom and turned on my bedroom light and played 6 games of Tetris and got to level 38, which is my 4th best ever score.
Tetris.
I love it.
Tetris.
You got your best score that day. You reached level 612.
I think what's so cool about the show and the script is, you know, there's definite descriptions of things that Christopher touches and deals with. And as artists, you get to decide how you want to physicalize that. And so that was the fun part about rehearsals, is about, you know, exploring and what does a microwave look like and what does it sound like and how do you wipe your feet on a mat and how do you make it interesting for an audience to sit there for 2 hours and watch that constantly.
That's right. It reminds me, well, Steve, thanks for watching and commenting. We miss you, Steve. It reminds me of just this whole idea that part of theater is magic, right?
Yeah.
We go in and with the lights go down and we all just agree to believe whatever we're about to see and that there's going to be some magic involved. And, you know, it reminds me that there's really nothing that we can't do in the theater. You know, there really shouldn't be anything that holds us back, you know, where it's like, well, we don't have a microwave. Well, okay, we're going to make Alison Crockett be the microwave, right? And that's just so, I don't know, it's so inspiring to me and brings me such hope and joy, is just the idea that there's nothing we can't do and that there's magic in the world and that there's love and light. And I'm going to get on this, one of these, you know, hippie rants that I get on, but
well, it takes you back to that childlike imagination, right? When you were young and you played and you didn't have to worry about what people thought of you or what things looked like. You just played. And that's what, you know, we get to do in the theater, which is so awesome.
That's right. Yeah. I love it. It reminds me of reading books to the kids and just like doing all the voices and doing all the sounds. And so I'm ready to do the one-man Curious Incident.
I'd pay tickets. I'd pay money to see that show.
I'm there.
Done. All right, I'm on it. Gosh. Okay. So I guess we should move a little bit back towards the present. I would just love to, I mean, if you have any final thoughts on our production, which I clearly love and cherish and always will, please jump in. But I thought maybe our viewers would be interested to know what you're working on now. Yeah, I mean, it's a weird time, but we're all trying to stay creative and happy and healthy and sane. Those are sort of my 4 big adjectives right now. But Chelsea, what do you have any projects, whether it's virtual or sort of, you know, creative? What you been up to?
Yeah, I've mostly just been able to teach some theater stuff online. Been teaching, kind of getting back to my performing. I've been teaching some acting classes and stuff. And doing, I did a little dance camp online. And so been thankful for technology and that I'm able to still kind of have a creative outlet doing that. So that's been my focus right now, and just kind of have some projects that are maybe going to happen depending on when things open. So just hanging on to that hope and waiting for that to happen.
I love it. Great. Troy, what about you? What's been keeping you busy, my friend?
So I feel like in general, it's always just so go, go, go in the theater world that this has honestly been just such a nice, like, relaxation time for me. I feel like I had like 2 months where I was like, this is really nice to just like not think about theater in a way, you know? But I feel like lately I've kind of been, opening up my audition book and looking at some songs and being like, I don't want to do that one anymore. Maybe I should do this one, or reading some plays and sing some monologues that I want to learn. So I'm kind of starting to do that so that, like Chelsea said, we can hope for, whenever the future opens up the theater world, that I'm just like ready to rock and roll with some auditions and material that I like to do.
That's great. There's that book, An Actor Prepares.
Yeah.
This is the time, right? I mean, if there was ever a time to catch up on reading or writing or preparing, I mean, this has been it, right? Mr. Lapp, what about you?
Yeah, so I was over in London when this whole pandemic kind of hit us. We had just opened The Prince of Egypt and had played like 30 or 40 performances and then got shut down. And so we all came back, and my theater company in Temecula had just merged a month or two prior with this new company down in Escondido. And so then was trying to figure out what that looked like in the midst of this pandemic. And we started this whole drive-in concert series that we're lucky enough to still be producing right now. And we have live concerts and we show movies every weekend, 4 nights a week. And people come out in their cars, and we did a Motown show, and we have this big Rocky Horror drive-in experience coming up where we do kind of a shadow cast with live performances. And it's just been trying to, navigate the daily changes from the CDC and what that looks like for our, area, and figure out what we can do to kind of bring people out safely to enjoy some kind of live theater. So we've been doing this drive-in series. We're working on like a socially distant kind of immersive auditory experience right now at our location, and just trying to be creative because people want to get out but want to do it safely. And so that's what we're trying to
absolutely. We did a little something like that, actually. We did a thing called Backyard Broadway here in Kalamazoo, and through Farmers Alley, and we would just bring speakers and microphones to people's backyards and sing some Broadway songs. And it doesn't sound like much, but people were very appreciative. They were like, we miss live theater, whatever it is, right?
Whatever that looks like now.
Right. Did you quick technical question, when the people drive up, are they able to hear the sound from the performance in their cars somehow?
Yes, we have an FM transmission feed, so you can turn it on and listen to it in your cars, or you can just listen to it from the speakers in the parking lot because it's pretty loud.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
All right,
it's
we're
cool.
Gonna have to talk about that, you and me, after this show.
Absolutely.
A few more comments here, Jacob, and then I think Rob from Farmers Alley said the photos from Prince of Egypt look amazing. Hope that show gets back on its feet and comes to the States soon. So we definitely all be looking forward to that. So congrats. Yeah, I've heard some of the soundtrack. It sounds great. And you and Scott are working on that together, right? So very cool.
And the CD just came out, or it's coming out, just in time for Christmas. So it's a great Christmas stocking stuffer. And hopefully, sometime in early 2021, we'll be able to get the show back up on its feet and then get it going again.
Absolutely. We'll be back. Broadway's coming back soon, and Farmers Alley and London, all across the world. So
all of it.
Speaking of that was actually my next question. What do you think the future holds for the arts, not only in smaller regional places like Kalamazoo, but maybe in New York or LA, or throughout the country or throughout the world? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky. I don't know. I'm still kind of trying to wrap my head around what we're going to be able to come back to. Once there's a way for people to stay safe and feel safe going out. I think that's the big thing right now, is that everyone's going to want to be safe in going to the theater again. And I don't know what that looks like in a big, 2,000 seat Broadway house. shows in London, like there's this show called Six in London that just moved from a small theater of about 150 seats to a big theater, that seats 2,000, and they're still selling the same amount of seats as they did in the smaller theater, but because it's so spaced out and because of the nature of that show where, it's 6 girls and they don't really leave the stage and they sing on a single handheld microphone, that it's great that shows like that can come back, but that's not realistic for a lot of the big Broadway musicals that are on Broadway and in a West End right now.
That's right. Chelsea, what do you think about this whole virtual streaming stuff? Do you think that that's going to continue, or will that sort of fade away?
Oh man, I honestly think that it might be more of a common thing, and it might keep going just as people maybe still don't feel safe leaving their houses, but they still want those experiences to be able to pay to stream a show. Still might be a thing that continues going.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I try to look for silver linings. One silver lining is that if we do it right, if we record each production with high quality cameras and microphones, we can have a better copy for ourselves, but we could stream it. We can show it to people. Maybe we got snowbirds here in Michigan. I know in California you don't know what that is, but it gets really cold here in Michigan in the winter, and some of our patrons, they go south for the winter and they miss a lot of our shows. Well, now I could send them a link and they could watch it from their home in Florida or California. It's pretty cool. Troy, what do you think about, there's a big push right now for theater to be more affordable, more accessible, more equitable. Do you have any ideas for me? How can I help Farmers Alley do that?
I mean, I think what you were just kind of talking about, like having it, like streaming is a huge thing right now. And you're watching, even Broadway shows that are getting filmed right now. They're filming one of the Broadway musicals that was on when the pandemic started, and they're filming it and they're putting it on Netflix in January. I think there's going to be a lot of push for that because it's what can happen right now. And you want to get stories out there. You want these actors to be able to perform. And I think that might just be what needs to be going on right now until we actually can figure a way to be safe and do it in person.
Funny you should mention that, because I have a little bit, some information of something Farmers Alley is working on. 3 things we're working on that go right to that. But before I get to that, I end each interview with a question about hope and inspiration. So other than the arts, where do you look for that? What is giving you hope right now, Chelsea? What other than the arts?
I do a lot of reading, so reading stories and stuff, and just spending time in nature. I'm an outdoors person, so I love going on hikes and spending my time near lakes and trees and stuff. So
awesome! I think a lot of people are doing that. That's really good. Jeremy.
Same thing as Chelsea. I love the outdoors, so I love getting out there and just kind of being socially distant and being safe, but being able to experience what it's like outside of the house, because we're stuck in this house for so many hours of the day. And then just hearing stories from friends, and people out there in the world. I love hearing moments of triumph or moments of success for people, whether or not that's in the arts or elsewhere. I just love kind of celebrating with people when good things happen to them.
Yep. Connecting with people. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Troy?
I think it's a combination of the two of them. I'm in New York City, so I'm in this tiny little apartment, and so any chance we can jump on a train or get a rental car or borrow a friend's car to just drive upstate just to be in like the Catskills or, just to breathe some fresh air is amazing. And also what this whole thing has really taught me is, not taught me, but it's very interesting to just be able to connect with people virtually or by a call or a text, and you can do it all the time, but life is so busy that you don't ever it just gets crowded, and you don't have the extra moment to be like, oh, I haven't talked to that person in 6 months, I can FaceTime them, I can call them, and so that's what I feel like I'm starting to do more of nowadays, which is a lot of my inspiration and hope,
Absolutely. Excellent. Well, guys, we have come to that time. I have a few things I want to talk about what's coming up next at Farmers Alley. So if you can just bear with me real quick, and then I will come back to you in a moment for any final words. thank you so much for joining us, viewers and guests and producers. I appreciate it so much. What's up next at Farmers Alley? Tune in this Sunday at 8 p.m. for the premiere of Lights, Camera, Musical, where we deep dive into a beloved movie musical and discuss its transition from stage to screen, hosted by Rob Weiner. Our first episode, we will be watching and gabbing about Little Shop of Horrors. Yes, the movie from 1986, starring Rick Moranis and Ellen Green. Rob will have cast members from our 2015 production of Little Shop, Harrison Bryan and Jeremy Koch, along with Adam Weiner to discuss the movie's alternate ending, if Steve Martin should have been nominated for an Oscar, and so much more. That's Sunday, October 11th at 8 p.m. on Facebook and YouTube Live, Lights, Camera, Musical. And then, after that, another premiere on Thursday, October 15th, also at 8 p.m. Eastern. It is the very first episode of Dinner and a Show with Julie Nemitz and Friends. Yes, grab your favorite cocktail and join Julie Nemitz in a lively hour of food and fun. She'll invite a friend or three to all make the same recipe for dinner, and then they'll nibble, nosh, and chat about all things theater, from their favorite Farmers Alley theater memories to their dream role still to be conquered. And finally, we are so proud to announce some major productions, virtual streaming productions, coming up at Farmers Alley Theater. On October 29th, we will be offering a virtual streaming production of a one-person show called The Conviction of Lady Lorraine, a Teleplay, written by and starring the incredible Dwandra Nicole Lampkin, star of Doubt, Clyburn Park, and The Christians at Farmers Alley. Tickets for this streaming event go on sale October 12th. That's Monday, for this compelling and dynamic piece of theater, which was produced at Farmers Alley in 2018 as part of our Spotlight series. And it was an extremely popular event, standing room only, and we loved it so much we wanted to stream it at a high quality way and share it with our fans and even more arts lovers across the country. We partnered with the wonderfully creative folks at Waltzing Mechanics. They are artists and film documentarians based out of Chicago, and they captured Dwandra's powerful performance on film, and soon you can see her incredible artistry for yourself. So on October 12th, grab your tickets. And from October 29th through November 5th, that's when you'll be able to share in this unique and original solo performance, where one woman searches for insight in another woman's fight for justice. A chance encounter in the Deep South triggers a journey to find the truth. One person may find it on a single street corner, keeping vigilant watch over a monument to civil rights, while another's path winds through the confusing thicket of race relations in contemporary America. After that, we'll have a streaming virtual fundraising concert in November and a streaming virtual holiday show in December. So keep an eye out this Monday on our socials and website and email for ticket information. And if you're not on our mailing list, please go to farmersalleytheater.com so you can be notified of all the latest happenings with our Farmers Alley online series. And follow us on the socials as well. I want to thank you for listening to all of that. Yes, there's our social information: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Please follow us, like, and subscribe. Jeremy, Chelsea, and Troy, thank you so much again for being here. I really appreciate that. Any final words from the three of you before we go?
I just want to take a second and say thank you to you and your staff at Farmers Alley. You know, I love what you guys are doing and how you're still trying to create and put out that positivity, you know, and just create theater and live events and whatever you can do during this time to make people feel again.
We got to stay connected, right? I mean, in any way we can. That's what theater is all about, and the arts, and that's what the world should be about, is, you know, helping each other, connecting with each other, liking and loving each other, lifting each other up, and I love being a part of that, and I know you guys feel the same way. There's some information there. Jeremy, you're an amazing director and artist. If anyone wants to follow you, here's a few ways to do that: website, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. If you want to follow Chelsea, who is an incredible choreographer and dancer and performer and acting coach, her website is right there. And Troy Hussmann, rising star, young up-and-coming actor, incredible performer. If you want to follow him, please follow him on Instagram at @thussman. Guys, thanks again. I want to thank our producers, our co-producers, Julie Nemitz and Jason Koch. And then, oh yes, thank you, Jason, for reminding me that if you like what we're doing and you want to support us and you're able to make a donation, please go to farmersalleytheater.online/give. There are many worthy arts organizations out there, of course, and we are all looking for your support. This pandemic has hit the arts world really hard. Of course, it's hit everybody, but especially in the arts world. So if you're able to, we would certainly greatly appreciate it. Thanks again to my guests. Thanks to our my producers, and from Farmers Alley, thank you for joining us. You are cherished. And finally, I would just say that in the spirit of art and theater, which is always collaborative, that we have to all work together to make the world a better place. Thanks again for watching the Koch Corner, and we'll see you next time. Good night, everybody.